Hey, this is Rich over at TVP Live with another quick tips tutorials brought to you by Adobe Photoshop Elements Custom Tutorials Group. And let's jump right in with today's poster. Wants to know how to recreate this photo, which is a custom picture put inside a frame of an image with a candle with a frame. So what happens is this image that we have here in Photoshop Elements is a product of two separate pieces. So the poster originally bought a PNG background image with a hole cut out of the picture and then introduced a picture to put inside of it. In other words, I'll turn this layer off and I've recreated what this person probably did originally. You bought this separate picture like this image, and it's a PNG image and it's got a hole cut out. And that basically is a matte. It's a foreground, and what you want to do is fill in the inside with the picture. So if we put this aside and we grab us any photograph, we'll just use this one, and basically we bring this over to the center here and bring the photograph and make sure it's underneath the foreground. So as long as it's underneath, you can bring it in here and just place it in there. It's that easy. Then you would just crop the image using the cropping tool and save it as a JPEG. The problem is when you save it as a JPEG, it's going to take these layers and merge them into one. So later on, you're not going to be able to separate this. So you want to make sure that when you go to save this, you also go to File, Save As, and instead of changing this to a JPEG, you want to change this to a Photoshop Elements PSD, and that will retain all the layers. And that way you can bring in any photo you want. So we can grab a different photo here and drag that into our current project. I'll go ahead and let go. Let's make that photo a little bit smaller by grabbing the corner and making it smaller, like right around there. But let's put it on the right to layer position, which is going to be below. So I'm going to drag this layer down underneath our foreground, and now it's below, but it's above the original. So now we're going to just drag that over, and there you see it fills in that hole that's there. And I can just resize this a little bit smaller. Now, one thing that we want to do on these photos is you can see the frame is leaning back, so you want to twist the picture a little bit so that it follows that same lean. All you got to do is come over here to Image, Transform, and Skew. Then you just grab this middle here and you just skew it a little bit like that. See that? You can skew it any which way you want. So when you skew it, it gives it the right angle that the frame is at, and that's all there is to it. Now I'm going to turn off all the layers except for the original photo. This is the original photo, and basically what you want to do, if you don't have those layers already separated in an image or a PNG, then you can cut out this center here. And what I would do is take an eraser and let's come down here. Make sure that the brush is not a hard brush. So I'm going to scroll up to a soft brush. Let's see what this looks like at about 13%. That's nice size. So I'm going to click it here once. Come up here. I'm going to hold Shift down and I'm going to click it right there. And then I do it again. I'll click it once, hold the Shift down and click it right there. Click it once, hold the Shift down and click it right there. Click it once, hold the Shift down and click it right there. Now what we're going to do is grab this polygon tool and make sure it's not the lasso but the polygon lasso right there. And I can click here, left click once, once, and then double click here, and then that'll give us the marching ants. And as soon as I hit delete, it deletes the photograph, the middle portion. I can Control D to deselect. And now, as I zoom out, we got us the actual original photo or image without a picture in it. And that leaves us with the opportunity now to once again introduce any photograph we want. This one here, right? Or maybe this one here. Any photograph you want. Oh, and one more thing. If you want to add a drop shadow inside this frame, all you got to do is create a new layer in between your foreground and your background. So if we click here and then hit the new layer button, it creates a layer right in between the two. Then all we got to do is come over here to the color palette. Let's create a black drop frame so we can choose from whatever we want with the left mouse button. I'll drag this down to black, hit OK, and then grab a brush, come down here, the brush is set at 300 point. That's too big. If I make it like that, it's going to cover up the whole picture. I'm going to undo that. Let's try this like at 75 point. Make sure it's a soft brush. We want the soft brushes. And if I come down here and click once and then shift and click again, boom. And do the same thing, click once and shift click over to here, boom. That gives us a drop shadow. It's obviously too much, but that's okay because we can always come up here to the opacity on that layer. It's at 100%. Click that and watch what happens when I drag it down. The layer becomes lighter and lighter and lighter the more we drag it down. We just want a little tiny bit of a drop shadow like this. Kind of like at about 25%. That's looking pretty good. If I toggle this on and off, that looks pretty real. And that allows the candle light to hit the rest of the photograph, and we have the shadow from the edges of the frame. It really pulls the picture back and brings the foreground forward. And that's all there is to it for this tutorial. This is Rich, calling it quits, saying over and out.